In a bleak Massachusetts town, they even made machine guns. Meanwhile, Moon had found friends in high places. He sprang to the aid of Richard Nixon, accused of ordering the Watergate cover-up.
Tonight, let me explain to you what I did about Watergate after the break-in occurred, so that you can better understand
Reverend Moon
the fact that I also
made a crusade
had no knowledge of the social
for the rescue of President Nixon.
As Washington bayed for his resignation, Moonies demonstrated for the president.
And meanwhile, you have ABC, NBC, and CBS covering this as though this were some sort of spontaneous demonstration of Americans supporting Nixon, when in fact every single person in the park was a Moonie who'd been ordered to be there.
By Moon.
By Moon.
Meeting Nixon at the White House, Moon advised him to burn the Watergate tapes.
And there Reverend Moon saying that, Mr. President, what you have to do, ask for the forgiveness of the people.
At congressional hearings, Moon was accused of conspiring with Korean intelligence to buy influence in Washington.
Well, I'll tell you what, Colonel, we'll split the difference. How's 10 minutes?
Never before or since had we seen such a blatant attempt to influence our political, social, cultural institutions.
Could you kindly give me 5 more minutes? I said 15 minutes.
So there was no doubt to you that the KCIA and Moon were hand in hand?
There was no doubt.
The South Koreans were terrified the Americans would abandon them just as they'd abandoned South Vietnam.
Korea will be a second Vietnam. If Korea becomes a second Vietnam, Korea collapses, then there's no way the free world can survive.
The South Koreans believed Moon had the power to influence events in Washington, and according to a CIA source, were willing to pay for his help. The source claimed the money had been channeled through a company in South Korea. Congressional investigators found that the head of Korean intelligence once held a meeting with Moon's American leaders at a hotel in San Francisco.
But public and the media misunderstood him, and they thought Reverend Moon is act upon government, Korean government, or Korean CIA front. It must be funded.
By the mid-70s, Moon was at the pinnacle of his power, holding enormous rallies in American cities. The church claimed 300,000 people attended this rally in Washington.
Today, America is plagued with problems: racism, juvenile delinquency, and immorality. Christianity is declining. Communism is rising. The menace of communism is everywhere. Of all these
Privately, investigators believed Moon was part of a KCIA plan to win over the Washington establishment. He told Alan Tate Wood to find friends in the military and intelligence community.
His key strategy was, we will find some powerful man or some powerful organization, and we'll find out what their agenda is, and then we will attend them and serve them, and eventually they'll come to recognize in us their greatest ally, and at that point we then begin to be able to dictate to them.
We shall never let it be down. Never, never, never.
The Lord is my shepherd. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bohee Pak denied allegations that his master was controlled by the KCIA.
They were trying to crush our movement through the congressional hearing.
Incredibly, Pak accused the committee chairman of being a Soviet spy. The committee, in turn, accused Moon of violating U.S. tax, immigration, and banking law.
If you were against him, if you were threatening his objectives, you were the devil.
As the committee saw it, no one realized how dangerous Moon was because they didn't bother to listen to his speeches. There will come a time when my words almost become law. If I want a certain thing, it will be done. On the Korean border, Moon seemed to expect a bloody apocalypse, out of which he would emerge leader of a united Korea and then of the world.
And he said, in this final battle, the only way for the forces of good to win may be to force the world to wake up. And he said the way we'll do that is we'll send thousands and thousands of Unification Church members and place them on the border, the demilitarized zone in between North and South Korea. And he said if the North Koreans attack, then the Unification Church members will be the first people to be killed. If we can have a lot of young people killed who are from England, France, Germany, and the United States, that will force those nations to come in on the side of South Korea. He would talk to us for hours and hours and hours about how God is searching for a nation. He wants to get Korea, but if he can't get Korea, then he'll try to get the United States. If he can get the United States, then he'll get Japan. And if he can get the United States and Japan and then England, if he can get those three nations, then he'll quickly grab 7. And once he's got 7, then he will swallow the whole world.
Loyalty at the end of the day is to him. You have to be prepared to die for him, and he says that.
In 1982, a young Korean girl arrived at Moon's estate outside New York.
It was absolutely beautiful. Big mansions, big rooms. The room that I stayed, it was like a princess room.
Moon had chosen her to marry one of his sons. She was barely 15.
Every time we see him, we have to have full bow. And he was God. He was really God for everybody.
Inside the estate, a fortress mentality prevailed.
There's inside world and outside world. There are outside people and there were us. We were the chosen people, and outside people are satanic people.
She saw church leaders arriving from Asia with bags of cash for the Moons.
It's sometimes $1 million, sometimes $2 million, sometimes 200,000. But for them, a lot of money is for their own personal use.
Publicly, Moon railed against gambling, but Nansuk says he took her and the rest. An assistant would place bets for him.
Did you say to him, Father, I thought we were supposed not to gamble?
No, of course not. That's if I wanted to die, maybe. No, no. That's we never raise any questions or doubts. We just had to be there accepting.
If Moon thought he was safe from earthly law, he was to be disillusioned. He was accused of tax evasion.
Not paying your taxes, withholding payroll taxes, paying people under the table cash so we didn't have to pay the government money. That saved Father money, so therefore it was okay. It was doing God's will, because anything that supported Moon or supported the agenda was doing God's will.
He asked God for deliverance.
He prayed on the Holy Rock every morning, and so did a lot of us. We were there all night praying for Moon. But it seems like nothing worked.
In 1984, Moon was sent to jail.
The trial judge himself said quite openly that, of course, were his religion less controversial, the government would have had less interest in pursuing the matter.
Justice will be done.
To the Moonies, their master was a victim of his beliefs, martyred by a bigoted and racist Justice Department.
But we all knew that, yes, it was tax evasion.
Released 13 months later, Moon celebrated in his own particular way.
Moon crowned himself as the emperor of the universe. And it was quite odd. The pictures were forbidden. Nobody could take pictures because it had to be absolute secret. And at that point, he became God in his eyes.
The chastened Moon realized he needed more than hotels and fishing fleets to achieve power in America. He needed his own voice in Washington. He founded the Washington Times.
And yes, one way to control this country was through the newspaper. That's how he saw.
It would counter the liberal Washington Post. The Times would become the voice of the Republican right.
The American people know the truth. And you, my friends at the Washington, to them.
Reverend Moon never sided with the political party, only sided with God.
It was like the Messiah had ridden into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. And Moon would say,